All right, a major new player has just entered the blockchain world. It's called Midnight, and it's being hailed as the fourth generation of blockchain technology. So, okay, let's dive into that and figure out what it all really means.
So let's kick things off with a really big question. You know, we hear all the time about tokenizing real-world assets. But why haven't we seen the trillions of dollars in real estate, or private equity, or fine art actually move onto the blockchain? What's really stopping the entire world's economy from going on-chain?
Well, it really just boils down to two huge roadblocks. First, you've got the massive risk of putting sensitive financial data on a public ledger for everyone to see. And second, there are those wildly unpredictable transaction costs that make any kind of business planning pretty much impossible. And look, these aren't small problems. They're the exact reasons trillions in value have stayed on the sidelines.
So yeah, let's start with this trillion-dollar problem. For any big institution, the lack of privacy on public blockchains is a total non-starter. I mean, you just can't expose all your transactions to the entire world. It's a huge security and competitive risk, and it's what has kept the real-world economy from jumping in, until now. And that, of course, brings us to the solution. Midnight is being framed as a fourth-generation blockchain, one that was designed from the ground up to solve these various specific problems. It's really meant to be an evolutionary leap, building on everything that came before it.
And this timeline here, it just perfectly illustrates that progression, right? First, Satoshi gave us sound money with Bitcoin. Then Ethereum came along and introduced programmability with smart contracts. Cardano brought us the third generation, focusing on scale and governance. And now Midnight is aiming to be the fourth by finally adding privacy and identity into the mix.
And listen, that's not just some clever marketing slogan. This quote from Charles Hoskinson really gets to the heart of the mission. It's not about replacing what came before, but about adding that crucial missing piece that's been holding back mainstream, real-world adoption.
So the big question is, how does it actually do this? Well, that brings us to our third section, privacy you can program. And this isn't just about making things private. It's about giving developers precise, granular control over what is private, when it's private, and who gets to see it.
Midnight makes this happen with a really powerful privacy toolkit. It uses a hybrid ledger, something called client-side proofs, two different kinds of assets, and a feature they call selective disclosure. So let's quickly break down what each of those means.
Okay, a huge piece of this puzzle is a technology called client-side proofs. Basically, using some pretty advanced crypto, your sensitive info, like your ID or your bank statements, can be verified by the network without you ever having to upload it. It just stays right there on your device, exactly where it belongs. This is what people mean when they talk about true data sovereignty.
Developers also get this incredible flexibility with two different types of assets. You've got shielded assets, which are private by default, hiding balances and transaction details from the public. And then you have unshielded assets, which are totally transparent, just like on other blockchains. They're perfect for things that need to be open. You, the developer, get to choose the right tool for the right job.
And all of this leads to selective disclosure. Think about it like this. When you show your ID to a bouncer, they don't need to see your home address or full name, right? They just need to know that you're over 21. Well, Midnight lets you do the exact same thing with data. You can prove a specific fact to a regulator without revealing everything else. And that's the key. You can have compliance without sacrificing your privacy.
Okay, so that's privacy. But what about that other huge barrier, the cost? I mean, volatile gas fees make it absolutely impossible for a business to budget for the future. Midnight takes this on directly with a totally different kind of economic model.
He uses a dual component system. So there's Night, which is the main token for governance and storing value, and then there's Dust, which is basically the fuel, or the gas, that powers all the transactions. By separating these two, the day-to-day operational costs are shielded from the wild market swings of the main asset. And here's where it gets really clever. Dust works kind of like a rechargeable battery. When you hold Night tokens, you automatically generate a supply of dust. Then, when you spend that dust on transactions, it automatically recharges itself over 7 days. For a business, this is a game changer. It means you can hold a certain amount of Night and have predictable, recurring operational costs you can actually plan for.
And that right there is the killer feature for mass adoption. Developers can hold Night to generate enough dust to pay for all of their users' transactions. This means you can build an app where the person using it doesn't even have to know they're on a blockchain. No wallets, no buying tokens, no worrying about gas fees. All that complexity just gets hidden away.
So, you've got this amazing technology. The question is, how is it being rolled out? Well, that brings us to our final section, Midnight's phased launch. And the approach here is very deliberate, with the absolute top priorities being security and stability.
The rollout is happening in multiple phases. The very first phase is all about making sure the core system is rock solid. This means developers test everything out on a pre-production environment first, and the network itself is run by a federation of trusted partners. It's all part of a long-term plan for progressive decentralization. And speaking of partners, just take a look at this list. The network is launching with infrastructure support from massive global institutions like Google Cloud, MoneyGram, WorldPay, and Vodafone. This isn't just some promise of enterprise adoption down the road. These companies are already running the network's core infrastructure from day one.
As Farmi Syed, the president of the Midnight Foundation, puts it, this careful, enterprise-first approach is all about creating the foundation for a whole new kind of on-chain economy, one that was frankly impossible on transparent blockchains before.
So all of this leaves us with one final, pretty exciting question to think about. For years, the lack of privacy on blockchains has been seen as a fundamental flaw, a bug. But what happens when you flip that completely on its head? What new applications, what new markets, what new kinds of value become possible when privacy isn't a limitation, but a core, programmable feature that you can build with?